Okay, Dale, I'm going to turn to you here. This is your case. How did the other side convince the Supreme Court to allow these cuts?
Well, I mean, actually, we don't really know because the Supreme Court issued a one-sentence opinion saying that they were going to stop early voting from starting in Ohio 18 hours later. If I had to guess, here's what I think. The other side has been arguing that there's a sovereign prerogative of a state to decide how its elections are going to be run. But I think what that misses is that state sovereignty derives its legitimacy from the electorate itself. So when politicians try to game the system, that calls into question the very legitimacy of the rules that they're trying to enforce.
So are we going to see long lines in Ohio like we did in 2004? What do you think is going to happen?
I think lines are always something that we have to be concerned about. But what we were really concerned about in this case wasn't so much a return to 2004, but the targeted elimination of the very early voting opportunities that low-income people need. Right? Golden Week was an opportunity for people to register to vote and cast a ballot at the same time, and thousands of people have done that in Ohio since it's been established. Right? These voters aren't going to have that opportunity anymore. It was lost this week.
Wisconsin. That's North Carolina. What's happening in Wisconsin?
So in Wisconsin, I was here a few weeks ago and I told you about the decision that the panel of the Seventh Circuit made where they allowed Wisconsin to implement its voter ID law for November. We asked the full court of the Seventh Circuit, 10 judges, to reconsider that decision, and they deadlocked 5-5. It was a tie vote, which meant that the original decision stands. So on Thursday, we went to the United States Supreme Court asking them to stop this. Right? This ID law, it changes the rules of the game during an election that's already underway. There are hundreds of people who've already cast absentee ballots before the ID law was put into effect. They're essentially going to be disenfranchised. Their ballots are going to be thrown in the garbage right now because just because they obeyed the rules that were existing at the time that they cast their ballots.
There are lower level cases happening as we speak. There's Texas and there's Arkansas. And what I find fascinating about Arkansas, there's a Republican candidate for Attorney General who has been purged from the voter rolls under Arkansas strict laws. And there's outrage by the Republican Party about this. Will it take Republicans being hurt by these laws for them to change their mind? So tell us about Arkansas, Texas. Is there an opportunity here for, in this case, in Arkansas, the GOP to possibly rethink these efforts?
You know, I'm not sure. I think you pointed out that in Ohio, the GOP used to be in favor of early voting, and then now 10 years later, they've turned against it. I think that's partly because some politicians have seen the demographic shifts in terms of who uses early voting. Before 2008, your average early voter was older than the median voter, was more conservative than the median voter, was wealthier than the median voter. 2008 flipped the script, and since that time, the average the early voting pool has become more diverse. It's become younger. It's become more people of color. More low-income people have been using it, and then all of a sudden, these politicians who had no problem with early voting in the 2000s, all of a sudden it's too expensive. All of a sudden it's a recipe for fraud. You know, nothing changed between 2005 and 2014 about early voting other than who's using it.
Zach, will mine